Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Matt, the one that everyone calls Chewy. This is Goblin Boy Nick. It's just past his birthday. He's now the big 28. 2 more years till the big 30, which is where I'm at. Don't worry, it's just another year, except there's a number 3 digit in front of the number, not a number 2. Anyways, it's been a long time, hasn't it?
A few months.
Really? No. Oh,
Birdman?
Birdman. That was back in November, man.
Interstellar, maybe?
Interstellar was November too. Birdman and Interstellar may have been the last one because that was definitely November.
So
But Birdman, I think, may have been like October-ish. Anyway, we've been wanting to do this thing again, and we just never did. But last week, we just went and saw Jurassic World, and all I gotta say is, wow! Finally, a sequel that holds up. 22 years in the making. You know, it's about time. I mean, certainly nothing against The Lost World and JP3, which I think they both are decent movies, but it's just nice that we get another Jurassic Park movie that keeps you invested the whole time. Is it perfect? No, it's not. I didn't think it would be. And it certainly is still not as good as the first one, but it's close. So what do we know? Alright, in 1993, John Hammond was going to open a park on an island, Isla Nublar. And he brought in Dr. Alan Grant, Dr. Ian Malcolm, Dr. Ellie Sattler, and a lawyer. Check it out, make sure all was good, all was looking good, but as Ian Malcolm suspected, it wasn't going to be good, and it didn't get good. Shit happened, and people got eaten by T-Rexes and Velociraptors, and bad stuff happened. 22 years later, the park actually, it's a whole new park called Jurassic World. John Hammond, has obviously passed away, just like the real-life Richard Attenborough, who portrayed him in Jurassic Park and The Lost World. And he handed the responsibilities down to Simon Masrani, that's that Indian dude, and his corporation. And the park is fully functional, everybody's happy, things are cool, but it's not a movie unless shit goes downhill, right? And that's what happens. Ultimate premise is that to increase attendance, they need a new attraction, meaning they need a new animal, new dinosaur, but they don't know what to make. Apparently they made all the dinosaurs they could think of making. Oh, well, I'll tell you what, we want bigger, scarier, meaner. Let's make a whole new one. Let's splice genes of different dinosaurs and make a whole new one. One that never existed back in those days, back in the Cretaceous period, Jurassic and Triassic period. And that's the first thing that we ask is, really? That defeats the purpose of the park. It really does. That's not a flaw in the movie. That's a character flaw that the movie's about. And it's like, the whole point is we never learn. Humans never learn. There are some things you just should not create, no matter how much you have the ability to do so. And just because you can create dinosaurs out of old DNA from fossils and all that great stuff doesn't mean you should, just like Ian Malcolm said in the first movie. And Chris Pratt's character, Owen, he kind of suggests that in this one. Luckily, they're able to kind of get the Velociraptors under control in this one. But you want dinosaurs? Movie's got them. Visually stunning. Well acted by everyone. Characters, although some were a bit stupid, they weren't as stupid as some of the characters in the sequel. At least you didn't really go around walking around being like, I can't believe that person was so stupid. Oh, like Julianne Moore's character in the second movie. I was hoping she would get eaten by a dinosaur, because she was just so stupid in that movie. So, Nick, why don't you say something?
I actually lost my train of thought, so just give me a minute. But I'm just gonna let me start with the first movie. Um, I think it's one of the best movies of the '90s. I think it was definitely groundbreaking for its time, even still to today. It's not a movie I would put on like my top 20 list of all time or anything, but I do really acknowledge the achievement it was. Like I said, it was very groundbreaking for its time. The storyline was pretty good and everything. And like I said, it still holds up. Like probably that and Terminator 2 probably still hold up for being '90s action movies. Now the sequels 2 and 3, The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3, I only seen them maybe twice my whole life, and it's something I need to rewatch because I don't remember liking them at all. This one, the only major criticism I have is I think the plot is very thin. I mean, all it is basically the nephews of what's her name?
Claire. Bryce Dallas Howard's character.
Like
yeah.
they go to Jurassic World, which is now the theme park now, and like he was saying, the dinosaur that was made from all these other genetics, just formed into this huge monster, and that's basically the movie is
It's a monster movie.
Yes, it's basically a monster movie, but at the same time, I'm probably going to give this movie more credit than it probably deserves. I loved it. I mean, I think this is what a big summer blockbuster should be. The graphics look great. I mean, I'm not even considering that, but honestly, I'm not going to sit here and say it was better than the first. But as far as like a big summer action movie, I loved the shit out of it. I mean, it was just great, and on that aspect of it, and I think Chris Pratt alone makes this movie. I mean, he really just
Chris Pratt's character, Owen Grady, he's like he's got personality traits of both Dr. Alan Grant and Dr. Ian Malcolm, in the sense that he's the one with the common sense that knows what's right and wrong. And it's like, people should listen to him. The Indominus Rex, that's what they call the new genetically modified dinosaur. They get him to check it out, and before he even is checking it out, he's like, really? Not a good idea. I mean, look at how you're treating it. Duh. It's just like something Ian Malcolm would say, except Ian Malcolm would trash the whole park, saying that you shouldn't create any dinosaur. I have, even the first movie was mostly a monster movie after the T-Rex attack, but it was still adventurous. Here's my critique. Alright, a big subplot of the movie, Bryce Dallas Howard plays Claire, I forgot her last name. Judy Greer plays her sister, who only has a couple scenes in the movie. Her and her husband, by the way, this is spoiler film. I should warn you. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. She and her husband drop her kids off at the airport so they can go to Jurassic World for the weekend or whatever, to spend time with her sister, who is Claire. Claire is a park operations manager. That means she is at the park to work. Okay? She really ain't got time to play around. She's there to work. Okay?
I love the way you said that.
Here's the thing. A big subplot in the movie involves Claire not having the time that she was supposed to see her two nephews. So she lets her assistant, this British girl named Zara, who gets eaten by the mosasaur, really cool scene, take care of them and whatnot. And you can tell this woman this Zara girl, the assistant, hates her job. And you find, she gets a call from the sister played by Judy Greer. Claire does. Oh, well, how are things? Things are fine. Really? Well, I just heard that you haven't even spent time with with your nephews yet. And Claire's like, I'm sorry, I'll try. And it gets too dramatic and whatnot. And I'm thinking to myself, first off, that is Claire's job. She is there to work. Imagine let's pretend that let's pretend, Nick, that you work at you could pick any job. It doesn't matter, but you're at your job. Let's pretend that you work at a cell phone store. You're selling cell phones. Okay, cool. You're there, and let's say your sister has 2 kids of her own, but she needs some watching over. And you're at work selling cell phones, and she just drops them off at work saying, Nick, spend time with your 2 nephews while you're working. It's like, really? And the movie portrays Bryce Dallas Howard's character, Claire, as the faulty one for this. I don't think she really is. It's really a minor flaw. But that's just something that you gotta consider. Like, nothing's wrong with Claire that, you know, she has a career to focus on, that she don't have any kids of her own. The movie, that same scene, that dramatic scene, you know, tries to make her look like she's a bad person for not having any kids and not settling down. Not every woman wants that. Not every woman should have that. Alright? If she works full-time operating a park that's on an island off the coast of Costa Rica, she probably ain't got time for kids. But if she loves her job, she loves her career, then I think she's very happy. Ooh, anywho, they say that the movie wouldn't get sexist, but it got a little sexist. I mean, she goes adventuring the whole park in her high heels. She's even chased by a T-Rex while still in her high heels. Come on. But you know what? Bryce Dallas Howard is awesome. She's great in this role, as sexist as it was, and you gotta give her credit. No acting was bad. I have nothing bad to say about any of the performances. Some characters may have came off as a tad bit two-dimensional, but no acting was bad.
I will say this about one of the performances. It was really nice seeing Vincent D'Onofrio, that's his name?
Yeah.
Jelly Donut. I call him. It was great seeing him in movies
Pile.
again. But, and I really liked his character, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with his acting, but I thought he should have been more, what do you call it? More menacing. But I think that had a lot to do with the screenplay.
Well, I think the movie was trying to portray him as just stupid for thinking that it's a good idea to use dinosaurs as weapons. He's the closest thing to a human villain the movie has.
Pretty much.
Because you notice that these movies tend to have at least one human antagonist, and he's the closest thing it's got. He's not a villain. He's a good guy trying to do the right thing. The Indominus Rex is on the loose, and he's just thinking the best solution to kill it. Let's let the Velociraptors do it. But he wants to, because he wants to use the Velociraptors as military weapons. Which, you know, the people with common sense, Owen Grady, Chris Pratt's character, and that black dude, are like, no, it's not a good idea. Yeah, it's not a good idea. You can't. It just won't work. They're not tame. They listen to Chris Pratt's character, Owen Grady. He's a Velociraptor trainer, and he has set himself as he's imprinted himself on the raptors when they were born, so he can communicate with them and train them and tame them himself. He's the alpha. You know how you learn that Velociraptors, they're pack hunters, and they always have that alpha male? He is their alpha male, until, of course, when the Indominus Rex, they come close to that. The Indominus Rex, because part of its DNA is raptor, knows how to speak raptor, because you know raptors speak in their own language to each other, somehow manipulates the raptors into believing that the Indominus Rex is the alpha. But of course Owen Grady later reestablished his connection with them. But it was cool subplot. And you would think, you look at the trailer, you look at that motorcycle scene as, oh, that's just big, ridiculous, stupid action. But when you see it in the movie, it works and it makes sense, and the pacing is done so right. A big thing, when we watch the originals, we're so in love with the characters of Alan Grant, portrayed fabulously by Sam Neill, and Ian Malcolm, who was played by Jeff Goldblum. Them two were always our favorites. But you gotta get a little of the Dr. Ellie Sattler,
Ian
too.
was mine.
Yeah. When Laura Dern was Ellie Sattler as well. Even The Lost World had some characters I would have liked to see again, like Vince Vaughn's character. But,
I don't.
I liked his character. He was one of, like, only 2 smart people on the island in the second movie. Him and Ian Malcolm. As you know, this movie None but one original cast member returns. And surprisingly, that is B.D. Wong, who returns 22 years later, returns to play Dr. Henry Wu. If you remember 22 years ago, in the first movie, he had one scene, which is when the baby raptors are hatching. And you see that he's this mild-mannered doctor that can do this. I read the books, by the way. And if you think the first movie alone is great, you got to read the book by Michael Crichton. It just blows it out the water. And Henry Wu had a much bigger role in the book. He gets killed in the book, though, the first book. As you know, in the first movie, he's in that one scene, you never see him again. It's implied he goes to the boat and leaves, so you know he doesn't die. 22 years later, B.D. Wong reprises that role, which makes two actors from Law and Order in this movie, him and Vincent D'Onofrio. But that's another story. 22 years later, he comes back, which is awesome. I don't know if this is a criticism or if it's something we don't understand. I just noticed something different about, and a lot can happen in 22 years. But in this movie, Jurassic World, he depicts Henry Wu as more egotistical. Like, he's got this, like, bossy attitude. Like, I'm so much better than everyone because I can create dinosaurs and I can manipulate genetics. Where in the first movie, he was so mild-mannered and down to earth.
You can definitely see a change with this, which I thought was cool, actually.
Well, yeah, I think what a lot of people don't understand is, again, a lot can happen in 22 years, and I think finally having the part become successful, and because he's now the head geneticist, I think his ego got to him a little bit. And I don't think he was a complete dick. He wasn't. I mean, he spoke with some common sense, especially in his later scenes when he was trying to justify making the Indominus Rex.
When I was pointing out, you could definitely see a change over the years because of his position.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, he was the head geneticist then too. It's just the first movie he was only in the one scene and you barely knew him. But it was so cool to see him again. There's been talks, before the movie came out. Oh, I heard Jeff Goldblum's going to make a cameo appearance. No. The closest thing you see to that is at the beginning when the kids are on the tram on the island. That caretaker, Mrs. Zara, sits right behind them. You can see her reading the book, and there's a picture of Ian Malcolm. That's the closest you get to a cameo from Jeff Goldblum. There's a cameo, if you didn't notice this, there's a cameo by Mr. Margaritaville, Jimmy Buffett. You can see there's a Margaritaville on the island, on the main street of the island, which, by the way, they filmed at the abandoned Six Flags here in New Orleans. But during the scene where the pterodons are snatching people in the main street, if you look closely, you see a man running away holding two margaritas. That's Jimmy Buffett.
I did not notice that.
I only just read about it afterwards. I have to see it again, but people were making, not in a mean way when I say a big stink, but they were talking about the scene. The man with the two margaritas. And it turns out that was Jimmy Buffett. But you can see Margaritaville in the background as one of the shops, one of the stops on the main street. Other interesting characters the movie has, comedian Jake Johnson, who was in director Colin Trevorrow's previous movie called Safety Not Guaranteed. I suggest you check it out. It's a small budget comedic science fiction movie about time travel.
I remember him from Let's Be Cops.
Yes, that's the dude from Let's Be Cops. And he was also in the first 22 Jump Street. He played the principal. He's a funny guy.
I didn't see 22 Jump Street.
21 Jump Street.
I've seen that.
He's from the movie, that is. He wasn't in 22, because he's the principal at the high school in the first one. He's on a TV show too, a sitcom. I forgot which one. But he's basically the comic relief of this movie. He's got a lot of funny lines. You see him. He wears the original Jurassic Park shirt, and his boss, Claire, chastises him for it. And he's like, I know I shouldn't wear it. I know a lot of people died. His desk is a mess with dinosaur toys. So he's like the good guy version of Dennis Nedry, basically. If you remember, from the first movie, Wayne Knight's character. He's the good guy version of that. He's not trying to sabotage the part. In fact, he's one of the heroes. He stays behind after everyone evacuates to help. It's cool. and what's his name? Irfan Khan plays Simon Razrani. Um, he's like a younger Indian version of John Hamm, and he's egotistical but not cold like a corporate villain. He really wants people to have a good time at the park. When flying the helicopter, he's asking Claire, "How's my park doing?" And she's like, I guess business is okay." He's like, no, that's not what I asked. How's my park doing? I do a bad Indian impression. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be racist. He was in, did you see, that movie that won those awards? The Ang Lee movie. Life of Pi. Did you see that?
About 5 minutes of it.
Okay, he was the adult character. He was the adult version of the main character telling the story. Yeah, good actor. Even if he played it as a bit cliched, but he's like, no, that's not what I'm asking. It's like, are the people enjoying themselves? He cared more about people having a good time, enjoying themselves, than the money. But Claire comes back with a good argument. But in order for people to continue doing that, we need to make money. So the Indominus Rex is smart. It manipulates its way out of its cage. And of course, that's what the movie's all about. The climax was this awesome dino fight between the T-Rex and the Indominus Rex, with a little help from the Beta Raptor, which they named Blue, because Owen himself is the alpha, and Blue was Beta. So after the Indominus Rex apparently kills all the rest of the raptors, it turns out Blue survives and is like the Deus Ex Machina of helping defeat the Indominus Rex. And the T-Rex, who was beaten severely, gets back up and helps. They tag team. The T-Rex and the Velociraptor fight this Indominus Rex. It's like a Godzilla fight. And I saw this coming, but they throw it to the side of the lagoon, and I knew it was coming when the Mosasaur just jumped up and snatched it.
Everybody was clapping when that happened.
Oh, yeah. It's like the Mosasaur saves the day. And apparently it drowns the Indominus Rex. But we don't see its last breath, so if they decide to make a sequel and they want more Indominus Rex, maybe
I'd be surprised if he survived that.
So to be clear, this movie, although they say is fully canon with the other two sequels, the movie plays as a direct sequel to the first one.
Totally agree with that.
No references to Isla Sorna are made whatsoever. No references to the San Francisco incident of '97. And it would have been cool if a little reference here and there would have been made, but none of that. So people call this a selective sequel, which is a popular trend now, which is where a sequel ignores some of the badder sequels in favor of the better ones. Like the upcoming Terminator Genesis apparently is a selective sequel and actually play more like a direct sequel to Terminator 2, ignoring Terminator 3 and Salvation. Or kind of like Superman Returns is more of a direct sequel to Superman 2. It ignores the third one with Richard Pryor and Quest for Peace. So this is kind of like that, except the other two movies are considered canon. So I'm thinking this is kind of a start of a new trilogy, maybe, or a new group of Jurassic Park movies. And I'm thinking that maybe in a sequel or so, references to Isla Sorna will get made. Even though those two movies weren't that good, I'd like to see references get made. Because it is part of the world, But the way this film ends like Isla Nublar is going to be another Isla Sorna, which is where the dinosaurs get to roam without human interference. Now that the park went kaput, it ends, the very last shot, the T-Rex, after surviving the attack, which by the way is apparently the same T-Rex from the first movie, lived all these years, walks on top of the main control building, the helicopter pad, and is just looking out in the distance of the island and the ocean, and does its big roar, like I am king again. So it's like, yeah, Isla Nublar is going to be another Isla Sorna. And the question is, did humanity really learn this time? Are they going to leave them alone? They should. Or, I'm sure a sequel, they're going to find some excuse to bring humans either back to that island or back to Isla Sorna. One or the other. But, And there's a lot of a lot of nods to the first film, especially when the two kids were a bit stupid themselves. They're in the gyrosphere, which is pretty cool. But even though they're told they need to get back because the ride's closing, like, man, let's sneak around for a bit. They venture off into the area where the old park was going to be built, and the old visitor center. And they find one of the old Jeeps, and they find the infrared goggles, the old when dinosaurs ruled the earth sign, everything. Another nod to the first movie is the John Hammond statue at the main visitor center. So, and Mr. DNA makes an appearance as a CGI hologram. It's pretty cool. Anything else?
I said what I had to say.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I will say that the first one, I think, is the better movie.
It is, easily.
And it was more thrilling and groundbreaking and special for its time. And I do think, in history, that will be the one everybody will remember the most. But on the same page though, I really, really enjoyed this movie, and I actually rank it pretty high, to be honest. I'd give it a 3.5 out of 4.
Well, that's what I give it to, is a 3.5 out of 4. I would have liked to have seen more animatronic shots in this one. The first movie is groundbreaking, not just because of the CGI, but even the animatronics look so much more realistic, and they still hold up today. But there were a couple of really cool, very realistic-looking animatronic shots in this film. Stan Winston passed away, but the people that worked for his company made a new company. And there's one shot where Owen's taking care of a dying stegosaurus, or one of the sauropods, or maybe a brachiosaurus. It was one of them.
But I do have to say this: if this was a direct sequel from the first one, say this came out in 95 or something, I wonder how people would feel about that then. And alright, just what if this one came out first, which wouldn't make any sense plot-wise, but what if this was just one movie that came out in 93? I mean, how would people have felt about it then?
People always want to see a live-action movie with very realistic-looking dinosaurs. They probably would have reacted the same way they did in the first movie.
And I know I said I do not care for the sequels, but to be fair, I haven't seen them in a really long time. But I mean, I don't know how I would feel about them now. But I mean, as a child, or a teenager or whatever, I didn't like them at all. They weren't memorable. I thought The Lost World was, from what I remember, was just way too over the top. A lot of the action sequences just were hard to follow. And the third one I felt was just this very short B-ish movie of the first. It was, nothing stood out for me with those two. And every now and then I'll watch the first one. I think it's a legitimately good movie. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't rank it one of the best movies of all time, or one of the best in my top 20 or whatever. But I have mad respect for the first one. I really do. And it's a movie I can still watch now.
Steven Spielberg, the great Steven Spielberg, he directed the first two. Which is, even the second one, how faulty that is, but he directed it. And it was after that one he decided, well, I won't direct anymore, but I'll produce them. He produced this one too. So he's still heavily involved. Third one was done by Joe Johnston, I remember. And I remember when Spielberg stepped down as director, John Williams stepped down as the composer. Now, we all know and love the theme from the first two Jurassic Park movies. Both main themes. Or they never get out of our heads. I remember the third one was composed by...
This one had that a little bit at the beginning.
Well, here's this one. This one
had...
It
was just a tease.
The thing is, the composer for this one, I have trouble pronouncing his last name. His name's Michael Giaccano. He's basically going to be the successor to John Williams. If you've heard all of his scores, it sounds just like John Williams would do. And that's why I think he was perfectly chosen for this movie. He did play a little bit of the main theme from the original towards the beginning of the movie as a bit of a tease. But the score was primarily all brand spanking new, his own. And while not as memorable as the original John Williams score, I thought was pretty good and worked really well. I remember for the third movie, I think Don Davis composed it, and all he did was just repeat John Williams' themes, but didn't sound as good. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think Michael Gio, whatever the hell you pronounce his name.
It's Gio, whatever. He
composed the new Star Trek movies. He works with J.J. Abrams a lot. He even did some video games. He did like the first however many Medal of Honor games, the ones set in World War II, which were created by Steven Spielberg, so you know he's got connections. And like the first 1 or 2 Call of Duty games, he's the successor to John Williams, no doubt about it. Meaning when John Williams retires or passes away, he's going to take over and probably do all the movies for Steven Spielberg. Which is funny, he's got a new movie coming out called Bridge of Spies. And it's the first movie and only the second movie, but the first movie since Color Purple that John Williams didn't do the score for. I read Thomas Newman does the score for. It's off subject, it's nothing to do with Jurassic Park, but it's to do with Steven Spielberg. Looks like a good movie. I saw the preview Thursday when I went and saw the movie, and it looks really good. 3.5, 3.5. I think we talked about everything.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The only thing I have left to say is actually not about the movie, but I came up with, this was my idea. I was trying to talk to him about this, that we should do videos. We should do one. What do we think our most underrated movies are in our personal opinions? Then what we think are the most overrated movies. Then later on, pick like our top 10 movies of all time. I mean, it's a good idea though.
I'm gonna have trouble picking my top 10. I know a few movies that would be in it. Anywho, that's it. I am Matt or Chewy. This is Nick.
Stir Crazy.
Stir Crazy. That's what. Yeah, he's Stir calling himself.
My karaoke name.
And that is it. All right, later, folks.